The moment I walked into my parents' house that Thanksgiving, my entire world shattered for the second time that year. I expected the smell of turkey, my mom's warm hug, and the usual laughter of my big family gathered together. Instead, the first thing I saw was my brother standing in the living room, next to my ex-fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry, the woman I had caught in bed with him just a few months earlier. In that moment, I realized something painful. This wasn't going to be a normal Thanksgiving. This was the day I would lose my entire family. My name is Alex. I'm 25 years old, and until recently I believed I had one of the strongest families anyone could ask for. I grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis with my younger brother and sister. My parents were the kind of people who valued family more than anything. We had dinner together almost every night growing up, and holidays were sacred. Even during college, I would drive back home almost every weekend just to spend time with them. I truly believed that no matter what happened in life, my family would always stand by my side. I met Stacy during my sophomore year at the University of Minnesota. She was smart, funny, and seemed to fit perfectly into my life. Over the years, she became close with my entire family. My parents loved her, my sister treated her like a best friend, and my brother, well, I thought he treated her like a sister too. We dated for years, and by the time I proposed last December, I was absolutely certain she was the person I would spend the rest of my life with. When she said yes, it felt like everything in my life was falling into place. We started planning a summer wedding, talking about buying a house, and building a future together in Minnesota. If someone had told me back then that within a few months my life would completely fall apart, I would have laughed in their face. But in April, everything changed. One afternoon I came home earlier than expected from work. At first I thought something felt strange. The apartment was unusually quiet. As I walked toward the bedroom, I heard voices. My stomach dropped. When I opened the door, I saw something I will never forget for the rest of my life. My brother, in bed with my fiancée. For a moment I couldn't even process what I was seeing. My brain refused to accept it. Then reality hit me like a punch in the chest. I exploded. I yelled. I cursed. And then I left the apartment before I completely lost control. Later that day, I kicked Stacy out of the apartment and told my brother to never contact me again. A few days later Stacy came back to talk. I expected excuses or maybe begging for forgiveness. Instead, she calmly told me that she had fallen in love with my brother over the years. She said she was sorry, but her heart belonged to him now. Hearing those words felt like someone was tearing my life apart piece by piece. I blocked both of them immediately. At first, my family supported me. My parents were furious at my brother and told him he wasn't welcome at family events. My sister cried and told me she couldn't believe he would do something like that. For a while, I thought at least I still had my family. Slowly, I started trying to rebuild my life. Then something unexpected happened. My boss called me into his office one afternoon and told me the company needed someone to take over their struggling office in Chicago. Apparently, he had personally recommended me for the job. I was shocked. I had never imagined leaving Minnesota, but at the same time, I felt like maybe a fresh start was exactly what I needed. So I accepted the offer. The plan was simple. I would tell my family during Thanksgiving and then spend one last Christmas with them before moving to Chicago. But things didn't go the way I expected. When I arrived at my parents' house on Thanksgiving, the driveway was already full of cars because our extended family always gathered there. I didn't even notice my brother's car among them. I walked inside, expecting the usual chaos of relatives greeting each other. Instead, the first thing I saw was Stacy and my brother standing together, casually talking with my aunt like nothing had ever happened. My entire body froze. My aunt noticed me and called out for my mom to come into the room. My brother and Stacy refused to look me in the eye. A few seconds later, my parents walked in and greeted me awkwardly before asking me to sit down in the living room. That's when I noticed something else. Most of the family, including my sister, was sitting closer to them than to me. My mom took a deep breath and started talking. She said that what my brother and Stacy did was terrible and wrong, but she hated seeing the family divided. She said it was time for everyone to start moving toward forgiveness. Then my brother and Stacy began apologizing, but I didn't want to hear it. I raised my hand and stopped them. Instead, I looked directly at my sister and asked her a simple question. Do you agree with this? Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. Then I looked at my dad and asked him the same question. He answered firmly, yes. In that moment, I understood something heartbreaking. I was completely alone. Without saying another word, I stood up and walked out of the house. I could hear people calling my name behind me, but I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove away. Eventually, I pulled into a McDonald's parking lot. That's where I spent my Thanksgiving dinner. Sitting alone with a cheap burger, thinking about everything that had just happened. That night, I made the hardest decision of my life. If my family was willing to accept what my brother did, then maybe they weren't really my family anymore. Over the next few weeks, I quietly cut them out of my life. I blocked everyone's phone numbers, left the family phone plan, and got a completely new number. I removed them from my social media and told my boss I was ready to move to Chicago earlier than planned. By December 15th, I had packed my belongings and moved to Chicago. None of them knew. For the first time in my life, I was completely on my own. And honestly, it felt freeing. A few days ago, I received a message on Instagram from a new account that I'm pretty sure belonged to my mom. She asked why I had moved without telling anyone and said the family loved me and wanted me to come home for Christmas. I replied with one sentence. You only have one son now. Then I blocked the account. I've even started the process of changing my last name. That chapter of my life is over. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see what the future holds in Chicago. Because sometimes the hardest thing you can do is walk away from the people who were supposed to never betray you.